Hello, everybody. Welcome to CripChat, your weekly podcast for everything disability. Today, I have with me Johnson Shar, Ibby D, and myself, David D, the hosts, and the producer, Cunningham. Today, we're going to be talking about medical professionals with disabilities, and featuring Adam
Mortley. Thank you very much, David. Welcome, David. Adam Mortley, how are you?
Not too bad. How you doing?
All good. Thank you for joining us on CripChat, where we talk about, medical professionals with a disability. So, Adam, tell our audience a bit about yourself and what were the motivating factors that influenced your decision to enter the medical profession.
So I've been in the medical industry for well over 20 years now. I started off in pharmacy while I was in high school as a part-time job.
Wow.
And I've never worked in fast food. I've started off as my first job in pharmacy, and absolutely loved it. I loved being able to help people in any manner. It actually inspired me to want to become a pharmacist. But then when I was looking closer at university, I just couldn't see myself sitting behind a table dispensing medicines all the time. So then I looked into other avenues. As time's gone on, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've worked in all sorts of different areas within the medical field, aged care through to disabilities, through to hospital, pharmacy, medical centres, the works. It's been wonderful.
Is there a reason why you stopped, or what did you do?
I'm still in it. If you stay in one particular field, one particular area, sometimes it can become stagnant. And I like to be able to experience different areas, find out more. You don't really often see or appreciate what you're doing until you're on the other side, or you're in a different area. So I was in pharma for a while. I did natural, and going from natural back into pharma and back into natural again, I have a nice blend between the two. Rather than being solely narrow-minded on one area, I can appreciate both sides of the fence. It's the same as when someone tries to prescribe you equipment for your life and they've never been in it.
Oh, yeah.
And so they try and tell you, oh, you like this or you like that. But when they've actually sat in it, they go, oh, no, I don't like this. I don't like this. Once they realize it, there's a whole different way of presenting it to you.
So you can explain it like a car salesman. You're not going to be able to sell a car unless you've driven it.
Yes, exactly. And you don't know the safety rate until you've been in a car crash.
And you know where every, medicine is located, yeah?
Yeah,
well, you get familiar with the pharmacy.
It's always interesting when you talk to different doctors and they say, I don't believe in anything natural. And I go, oh, okay. So you don't prescribe iron? You don't prescribe calcium? And they're like, oh, but that's different. I went, no, that's natural. And then they go, I go, what about Viagra? And they go, oh, no. I'm like, no, that starts off natural. The main ingredient's natural. But a lot of them don't seem to comprehend that, where it comes from. They just think, oh, pharma, it's synthetic. We believe it. That's it. They don't ask any questions. Happened. Everyone
so good.
panicked because they had no idea where to buy things or what they were buying, because all they do is they buy the name brand, and they didn't think, well, what is it that I'm actually buying? What is it that I'm actually using? As I said to David, it's very interesting that everyone was so particular about face masks. And I said, well, do you not realize that out of everything in theatre, the only one thing that is not sterile is the face mask? And he was like, what? But yeah, that's what it is. So that I often don't know what all the carry-on is.
Do you have any educational experiences that you would like to share?
What I found very interesting is that as as the industry has progressed, medicine went from being somewhat of a TAFE style education, because a doctor never went to university until the turn of the century, to being all university based, and now they're going back to a mixture of university and practical. And those nurses and doctors and whatnot that were trained, particularly nurses, I guess you'd say, that were trained under the hospital-based system, which means that they were trained in the hospital mostly, were far better equipped and far more knowledgeable than those that were university-based, because there's only so much you can learn theoretically, but when you actually get out there and do something, it's an eye-opener. Suddenly you realize, oh, there's blood here. I don't like blood. Or, oh, there's a smell here. I don't like the smell that goes with it. Like, well, why'd you go into nursing? But it's been very interesting how it's evolved over time. And the university has become very protective of their program and their students and the way it's done. And when nurse practitioners first came out to Australia, the universities wanted a 3-year course in order to become a nurse practitioner, whereas in the States it's not that at all. And then it was like, who can train you and who can't train you, and all these rules and regulations, and some of them were just absolutely pathetic. But the universities want money. They're there to make money. They're a business. They're not there with the goal to train you. They're there to make money. And if you get trained, well, great. But yeah, no, I find I've met some people around the years that have been trained in the field, and they far surpass with knowledge anyone else that I've met with from a facility, like a university background sort of thing.
Interesting. During your career, what are some challenges or obstacles that you have witnessed or overcome?
One that I found, I thought about this one for a little bit, but one of the obstacles that I found, I'd been in aged care and I'd been in the medical side for a long time, and I'd done some work with disabilities. But then when I started working a lot more, like a lot closer with disabled patients, I found that there were a lot of people who were prescribing and working with them, but nobody had actually really used it. And so trying to tell patients and trying to describe things and put things together, when they were qualified OTs or things like that, they knew the theoretical side of it, but they hadn't actually physically got in it and felt what it's like to be on the other end of it. And there was this guy who had an engineering background, and he said, come here, sit down in this. These are the settings. And he modified all these settings, and he said, now go for it. And I went, oh, wow, that feels really comfortable. And then he moved something else around, and he said, what about this? I'm like, oh, wow. And he said, but you have this issue. And he just seemed to know exactly what would happen for each person with their conditions and with their positionings. And he could sit there and look at you and then prescribe something far better than somebody who was actually in the medical field. And that's because he had taken the whole item apart in his head and then put it back together, and then actually physically got in it himself to try it out, to see what it did to him. And then I watched as he deteriorated in health and had to use it, and he used it just as good as what he was doing with his prescribing it. There was no, oh, I wish I had known this, or I should have done this, or because he had put himself in that position as if he was the patient and said, yeah, I want to learn. I want to be a patient. I'll be there.
Is he experimenting on himself?
Yeah. He just said, I'll be the patient. I can't walk. I can't do anything. I want to try and do this for myself. That's when he started to realize the facts behind it and go, well, I can understand why people hate this thing, or they hate this because it's ludicrous. And so he made a lot of modifications himself. It was just an eye-opener. And an OT came and worked with us, and he tried to say, oh, no, you do it this way, you do it. And he goes, no, get in the chair. And so he put the person in the chair, and the guy goes, he pushed, sorted it all out, and made him pretend that he was one of the patients. And the OT going, "Oh, now I see what you mean." And he goes, "Get on the other side of the fence, and then come back and tell me what you think." So, and that's one of the biggest things I found is that people don't want to go on the other side of the fence. They're fine to tell you, but they're not prepared to go on the other side.
Adam, what have you got disability?
So about 3 years ago, so I don't really have like a disability per se. I had a stroke about 3 years ago, and I lost the left side of the body. And so for a year and a half, I didn't go on camera. The whole side of the face was dropped down, and the vanity, when you go to smile and the face doesn't quite pull up, I was very, very self-conscious of it. And so I disappeared off of social media, off of everything. And my picture was never taken, just because I needed to get the muscles going again. When it happened, I knew straight away that if you don't use it, you lose it.
You lose it.
With my hand, even though I don't have full, like massive control, I can do a fist, but it's not strong. But I can get in here now. I used to only be able to get to here. What I did is I could touch type. Where I play the organ, I didn't want to touch the organ because that would have made me very depressed. So what I did is I typed, and I just made sure that I just kept my type in. I wouldn't let anyone do it for me. I wouldn't go to one hand. I just said, nope, I'm going to do two hands. And
Nice.
and it was painful because you have electric shocks going up your arms all the time, as you're forcing it to go through. So you feel this electrical shock go up. But I was just like, no, I've got to do it. I've got to keep doing this. Otherwise, I'm going to lose it. I still only have I'd say about 50 to 60% feeling in the left leg. So it's really cool. You can put a pin in the leg and you don't feel it.
You can't feel it.
It just feels like you're pressing hard.
I've had that feeling when your leg goes numb.
Yep. I have issues that, like, I just flew over to over to Perth. When I first went over in June, I didn't know how I would travel. I thought I'd be okay, and I didn't. I blew up like a big balloon. I just retained fluid, and all the skin was hard as a rock. I couldn't move my fingers or do anything because when the ball goes hard, you got to start moving to try and pump everything through. The next day, I went somewhere and they said, "Oh, can you play?" And I went, "I don't want to because my hands were all swollen." And they said, "Oh, can you come and play?" So I went, "Okay, I'll do it." And I tried. I did okay, but my hand kept seizing and my leg would keep seizing, and I'd have to keep moving the fingers to get the blood flowing again. And then you'd start playing, but as soon as you hold a note, it would freeze up again, and I'd just be like, "Oh, please, I just want to get out of here." And as much as it was painful, I still pushed myself through it. Some days you have really good days, and other days it's back to square. You feel like you're back at square one, but you just got to keep moving it.
Of course.
And I haven't let anything stop me yet. I went on a cruise and went with the kids on things like the Flying Fox and various climbing things, but I knew my limits. And so I knew when I got to a certain point that if I pushed myself further, I would be in trouble. And so then I'd back out very quickly. And so I'll still try and do it, and I'll do it until I physically can't do it anymore, and then I'll stop. It's left me with a great appreciation for what I used to have.
You don't know what you had until it's gone.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a ballroom dancer. I can still get up there now, but I can only go for about 2 or 3 minutes at a maximum, and then I have to stop and I have to rest. I might be able to do it again, but depending on what I've done, it might be me for the rest of the night. But I'm getting there.
Thank you very much for sharing that. But building on what you were saying, when you had your health complications in the past, what experiences have you had?
I've had some interesting ones. I had kidney stones, and I went down to the hospital, and I usually hold my pain very well. I've got a very high pain threshold, but I'm not an overly articulate person when it comes to pain or happiness or emotions. I'd rather just keep it within myself. And I remember going down there, and they like to think, well, if you're screaming or shouting, then then you're in a lot of pain. But if you're not screaming, then you're obviously not in a lot of pain. And I'm like, well, no, you can be in a lot of pain and just not vocalize it. People are like that. And when I went down there, they kept asking the same question over and over again. And I'm like, every time I talk and think, I'm not controlling the pain, which means it's very, very painful. So if you don't talk to me, I can control the pain, and it's a lot more tolerable for my body. And so after a little while of these same questions and rather stupid questions at that, I turned around and went, can you stop asking such redundant questions? And she goes, they're not redundant. I went, they are when they've been the same question 3 times, 4 times, and you're still going. What are you trying to achieve? And I got a bit snappy, and they're like, you don't have to be so rude. And I went, I'm in pain. You're acting a bit like a fool. I'm not going to be very sympathetic. I'm sorry, but let's just get this going. But yeah, it's interesting. I had another time where I had a routine tonsillectomy. It would have been almost a week after. I woke up in front of the mirror, and I was pulsating blood out of the mouth. And so I knew straight away an arterial bleed at the back of the mouth. And I was like, okay, well, in order for me to survive, I'm going to have to keep my heart rate down. The more your heart beats, the faster you bleed. And so when I got up to the hospital, the triage nurse said, so what's the issue? And I said, I've had a routine tonsillectomy, and now I've got an arterial bleed at the back of the throat. I need to be seen immediately. And she goes, let me be the judge of that. And I went, really? So I pulled the towel out from in front of my mouth, opened my mouth up, and just covered the screen. And she went, oh. And with that, she panicked, ran around the counter, grabbed me, took me in with the in a wheelchair and everything. And yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
And it's awesome that you have that medical knowledge as well. So when you're exposed to those situations, you know what to do.
Well, it's hard because
awesome.
like in that sort of situation, while you know what to do, you also know the outcome. So because you know what the potential is, it's very hard to keep calm, knowing that your risk or your chance of survival is limited based on how quickly I can get to emergency care. And after losing 2.5 liters of blood, I'm looking at my chance of survival decreasing quite rapidly, and they're trying to be positive to you, and you're trying to keep your heart rate down, and you're thinking, this needs to stop soon, otherwise I'm in real big trouble. Because every time you think that, then your pulse starts pumping faster, and you got to keep calm and just go, just ignore the facts, just keep calm. So there is good parts, and there's also really bad parts.
Do they treat you differently that you're an ex-nurse?
Sometimes you can be treated differently in the sense that, like when I took my father in, my father had gone in with a white tip spider bite to the stomach, and it had become quite ulcerated. So I took him up to the hospital, and the nurse started testing and treating for STDs. And I was like, no, it's a white tip spider bite. And she goes, they don't cause any problems. And I was like, well, they do actually. There's some recent studies that have come out of South Australia. The burns unit at the hospital in Perth had about 20 patients at the time in there being treated for white tip spider bite. So we got into an argument, and she's trying to say that she knows more and all this, and we're having this big, set to. And so in the end, I just said to my dad, okay, I'm going to discharge you, and we'll readmit you into the burns unit up in Perth. And that's what we did. But other times they can, when you know the people there, or they find that they feel that you know what you're talking about, then it's a lot easier. They love to talk to you because it's like they don't have to dumb things down. They can just say, this is what it is, and you know the rest of it. There's pros and cons on both sides. I've had it as well where I've gone in there and they've not known how to do something, like put a collar and cuff on my son, or even what a collar and cuff was, or put in a cast on my daughter. And so I've done it and then trained them, showed them how to do it. So it's been very interesting. But I've been able to deliver all of my kids by one, and I've done put the IVs in the kids themselves and taken them out and done a lot of the stuff myself. So that part of it I've enjoyed.
Cool. No, that's good. Thank you for sharing. As a result of your health condition, how has that impacted your experiences with your family and friends?
With my family, particularly, like after the stroke, I was very limited in what I could do. They've unfortunately had to take more of a physical role in helping around the place, because shortly after we went to move house, I couldn't do most of the stuff. In the past when we moved, I did all the heavy lifting. I packed all the boxes. I did the bulk of it. And then shortly after I had it, we had to move, and I was really worried. I thought, how am I going to do all this, not being able to physically do what I used to do? And my kids stepped up and did everything for me. And I was like, wow. It was really nice. Like it's been tough on them because I haven't been able to muck around and do the things that I used to do with them. Like they just went down to the trampoline park, whatever it is. I can't jump on a trampoline. The leg just doesn't bounce. I land on the trampoline and I just collapse straight down. I've tried a number of times. If I start in a standing position and just slowly jump, then I can get it going. But after a while, if I'm doing too much jumping, the leg just gives way and I just collapse to the ground. So there's things that I can do and things that I can't do. And it's been sad not being able to do things.
Have you tried putting a brace on it?
Yeah, I've got a brace, but when you jump on the trampoline with the brace on, you still can't. You've got no muscle to be able to push you back up.
When I add weight to your leg,
it helps to strengthen it and keep it upright, which is great. But if you need to jump, you need the muscle to push you back up. If you don't have that muscle, you can't push yourself back up. So then there you go. What's going to have in the brace?
Have you ever tried to strengthen it through weights?
Yeah, I've done that. I do walking. I've been strengthening it, but it just takes time. And the doctor said to me, your biggest thing is you need to take time out and just relax. And unfortunately, at the time, I couldn't take time out to relax. So I was able to do that over Christmas, and I found just being able to relax over those 2 weeks during that time, my health went up phenomenally, which was great.
Awesome.
But you just got to do what you do. But well, it's going to take time. Unfortunately, it doesn't. You can't just go, okay, well, it's been 6 months, I should be healed by now, or I've done a break, 4 weeks later, I'm all good now. Now and then I'll be doing something and I'll still get electric shocks running up and down my body. You move slightly different, and you feel like you've just your whole arm jars backwards because this electrical current's just gone straight down your arm, or you got to step and the electrical current goes straight up your leg and you almost drop to the ground because of it. It still happens, and you just deal with it. And when I've been doing too much work, and I'm tired and fatigued, you'll start to see that the face will drop, the arm stops moving, the legs stop moving. It's very easy for you to see the results when I'm tired.
Was that detrimental on your mental health?
It's hard with your mental health because, like, when we went on the cruise, for instance, one of the nights there was a dance party, And so I got up on the dance floor and I loved it. And I had a really good, but I had rested for 3 days beforehand. But then 2 days later, we had another dance party, and I thought, well, I was really good that other day. I should be okay now. And it was a rock and roll one, and I love rock and roll. I did two dances, and on the second dance, this girl walked behind me, and I pushed off on my bad leg, and the whole leg just dropped. I just couldn't get up after that. I was in so much pain. And I was just watching as everyone was having fun and getting up and doing stuff. And I was getting more and more depressed. And I thought, no. So I walked away. If I stay, I'm going to get really depressed. And then I'll hate myself for what happened. And so I just left and did something else because I had to get it off of my mind. And that's been the hard thing. And that's why I wouldn't touch the organ. Because if I got on the organ and I couldn't play like I used to, then I would be really depressed, and my ability to heal and do everything would stop straight away.
Yeah, no, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Look, do you have any, concluding thoughts or advice or pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, for those on both sides of the fence, I think the biggest issue that we need to have is tolerance. And tolerance is understanding where the other person's coming from, and where you're coming from, and appreciating both sides of it. Until medical professionals have put themselves in the shoes of someone who is requiring their assistance, then their ability to show empathy and care and concern is limited. Likewise, sometimes we don't often appreciate the help that's being given to us, and we can be a bit prideful and go, no, we want to do this by ourselves, we want to do this by ourselves, and we don't really appreciate the help that's being offered, or we are grumpy or tired. And sometimes there's people that are really there to help and really want to try and help. And that's one thing that I had to learn myself, is that I was a very self-sufficient person, and I never allowed anyone to help me, ever. And then I realized that people were missing out on opportunities where they wanted to help, but I wouldn't let them. So now I've had to go, okay, well, it's not that they're doing it for me, or they're babying me, or they're treating me anything less. They're wanting to help, and I should let them, because it's a two-way streak. It's friendship is two ways. And so I've had to swallow a bit of pride. It's been good.
I was always told, if you get someone offering to help, take it.
Cool.
Because it doesn't mean that you're incapable or anything like that at all. It just means
if someone asks, "Can I help you?" You can tell them, "All right, this is what I need. Can you help me get there or do this?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
Without being too stubborn about your disability.
Well, I didn't think I would have any issues walking along the beach, but I didn't realize that the walking on the sand was so different to walking on the pavement. And I started walking on the beach, and next thing I was like, I had brought my walking stick. And I thought, no, the walking stick would be no good here. And so I'm stuck trying to walk across the sand. And so people came over to help, and I was like, at the beginning, I would have said, no, I can do this. I have to. But I was like, no, I need the help. I knew it. I needed it.
Yeah.
I was like, please. And no one treated me anything differently. They saw that I was struggling, and they helped me along. And I just never thought that I would be so badly affected walking along sand. It just blew me away. I couldn't believe it.
Look, at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all need that support one way or another.
Even
Such
if it's
an honor
mentally.
to have you on the show, Adam. And thank you for sharing, your insight.
No problems. Hats off to you guys. I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing
here. It's been an honor having you on the show. And we
I'm
look
impressed with
forward
what you guys are
to, I
doing.
guess, having you more.
Thank you.
You've been watching CripChat, your weekly podcast for everything disability. Thanks for coming on.